Before I get into this video, just remember to follow me on Twitter. People keep telling me I should plug my Twitter more, so yeah, check that out, at Jackson Kruger. The link is in the description, but anyways, back to your regularly scheduled video. Alright, so how good exactly is Daniel Jones? I thought this could be an interesting topic of discussion, given the fact that I think a lot of people have sort of written him off already after a disappointing year too. I think it's fair to say that, but I don't think it's been abysmal, and I want to talk about sort of him and his whole situation and how big of a chance do I think he has to become a franchise quarterback, or is this just kind of a lost year for the New York Giants in terms of the quarterback position? So one interesting thing to note is that this offense was not good last year. And it's not just Daniel Jones, it's the entire offense as a whole. In terms of Pro Football Focus ratings, they had the 29th best running game, the 31st best offensive line, and the 25th best receiving game. So that's what was surrounding Jones. Not great. Granted, he's still, if you use my WAR formula, it's still underperformed, which to me says that Daniel Jones might have had a negative WAR season last year, although it's not really designed to work this way, so I wouldn't really put too much factors into that. My point necessarily, though, is that pretty much nothing was good around Jones, and there are some interesting statistics to talk about. So a couple things I wanted to look at with Jones is he being consistently kind of or is there some stuff that he's good at and some stuff that he's bad at? And to me, what I would rather him be at this point in his career is inconsistent. If a guy has not really shown that he can be an elite quarterback just yet, or even a franchise quarterback just yet, or a backup quarterback potentially, I think he's shown that. But I want to see a guy who has positives, and Jones does have positives. So the first thing is he truly excelled at the deep ball last year. He did. If you look at his passer rating, if it's less than 20 yards down the field, it was 84.12. So not great, right? But it's not horrible, but, kind of fine. But his passer rating when he's throwing it over 20 yards down the field is 132.5, which is an insane jump. So you expect some kind of jump, but that is just a huge jump. And just so you guys know, I will be getting into film study as well towards the end of this video. But, that's a big jump. And to me, it says that, okay, this guy can throw the ball down the field well. He excels at that. The one issue, and this might be part of why he did excel at it, is they didn't do it very often. Only 9.6% of the time was a throw further than 20 yards down the field, and this is in terms of air yards, of course. So for Jones, I would expect him to, want to do that more often. And if I'm Jason Garrett, I'm saying, okay, let's push the ball down the field more often, right? That's what you should be doing. Another thing that's interesting to me, and this matters, is he did very well when he wasn't pressured. And when there's a clean pocket, that's actually something that tends to carry over a lot better year to year than under pressure. When you're under pressure, there's some variance. His passer rating was only 55.7 when pressured, which actually is still in the range of what you can do consistently. There have been quarterbacks who are consistently mid-50s in terms of passer rating when pressured. So there's a chance he'll get better. There's a chance that's just what he is under pressure. But when he wasn't pressured, it was a 92.8 passer rating, which is much better. So when he's not pressured, he performs a lot better. And that gives you some hope that if you can, sort of keep him clean, maybe good things could happen. One last statistic I want to talk about before I get into the film, and this is something that I've actually made a whole video on entitled, When Should You Give Up on a Quarterback? And basically what it is it's saying, okay, if you did well at stat X, well, in your second year you did this in stat X, how often does a player who is in that range end up being good? How often are they great? How often do they have some value? And how often are they just a bust? And what's interesting is, so there's two different categories I did. I did Pro Football Focus grade, and then I just did passer rating. In terms of Pro Football Focus grade, actually where he ended up in terms of the in between the 70s and 80s, he was given basically a 25% chance for each of those four categories, which is great, good, some value, or bust. So there's hard to really tell just from that alone. However, in terms of passer rating, he was 30th in passer rating, and if you end up there, in terms of it wasn't a huge sample size, but in terms of that sample size, he has a 0% chance to be great, a 10% chance to be good, a 20% chance to have some value, and a 70% chance to be a bust. So the passer rating thing is scary, and you hope that there's a difference there. You hope that, hey, his passer rating will go up when he's under pressure this year, which could be better. You hope that Jason Garrett will have the Giants throw the ball down the field more frequently, which means that the Giants offense will be better and he will be better. That's what you hope, but there's no guarantee of that. And I think that's kind of where things get a little scary and where it gets interesting. So let's look at the film now and see how well the film backs up just the findings of the data. So let's start off with this play. So this is going to be a deep route. I believe it's cover 3 zone, but it could be cover 2 or even quarters. It's a little bit hard to tell. I'm not great at reading coverages when it's on the broadcast. All 22 helps me a lot, and unfortunately, I think all 22 might just be done forever. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that, so for now, we have to use broadcast. It is what it is. I'll use what they give me. But anyways, watch what happens. So Jones takes a snap. He's going to run a play action, and, he fires one deep, and you see right here, so there is definitely an opening. This is a route where a receiver was able to get open, but watch what happens. It's just a perfectly accurate throw, and they get the touchdown. So that kind of does go to show, like, okay, yeah, the deep ball was pretty good for Jones last year, and the tape does back that up. He did have a good deep ball, and you hope with some better receivers now this year, maybe they can use that more frequently, which would be nice to see. And then you have something like this. So I wanted to also see, were there some signs of him doing well under pressure? Because again, statistically, there tends to be a lot of variance when you're under pressure. I've talked about this a lot this offseason. I've sort of joked about, 2021 being the year of Analytic Jackson, because I've paid a lot more attention to analytics than I have in years past, and I think I understand the game better because of it. And one reason why quarterbacks can sometimes have some fluky good years or fluky bad years is because their passer rating under pressure, or just performance under pressure, ends up being disappointing, or very good, just depending on which way it goes. And this is kind of an example of Daniel Jones doing a good job under pressure. Like, watch how there is going to be some pressure, but he's going to do a good job of throwing off balance and making a good throw. And that does give me a little bit of hope that Daniel Jones might legitimately just have gotten unlucky last year, which does appear to happen. And I'm not sure if it's luck or if it's just talent around him or like wide receiver talent. Whatever it is, I really don't know. But there's some variance there that I do know. And maybe it won't be as bad this year. In fact, I probably would bet on it not being as bad. I think it would probably be better. I wouldn't be shocked if it goes up to 65 or 70 under pressure. And by it, I mean passer rating. Okay, now this play. This is where we get into the negatives. So the reality is, and this is something that my podcast co-host Kyle keeps bringing up, and it really is true, is you just can't turn the football over. And no matter how much stats you want to bring up, no matter how many things you want to talk about, when he continues to turn the football over the way that he does, well, that's where issues happen. So this is an example, I think, of just why a lot of these turnovers happen. He's a very passive player, no pun intended, with the passing. He's a very, he needs a little bit more of a killer instinct, I think. There's been some comparisons with Daniel Jones and Eli Manning, and off the field, I kind of get it. But on the field, Eli Manning was a killer. On the field, Eli Manning, and if anything, he took too many chances. Like, he absolutely would go for it given the opportunity. Daniel Jones, I think, needs to go for it a little bit more often. So anyways, on this play, it's man coverage. It appears to be cover 2 man, and you see the route that Jones is going to want to throw to right here. And watch how right when this play starts, you're going to notice that there is a great opportunity. Right when the receiver started running over the middle of the field, a Chicago defender didn't do a great job at sort of realizing it's his man and getting over, which now means Jones absolutely has an opportunity to get this first down. Important thing to note on this play, this is 3rd and 6. So if this is, 2nd down and 6, I think Jones probably does make this throw a little bit quicker. But I've also circled a Chicago safety who's kind of reading this play and moving in. And again, I'm not sure exactly what the play call was because I'm not in the huddle. It could have been that this was his job pre-snap, or it's a good read, but regardless, I do think Jones notices this, and he's going to kind of hesitate a little bit when I would much rather him make this throw and just hope that your receiver can pick up the first down, because he probably does end up doing that. But watch how Jones hesitates and kind of pump fakes several times, leaving the ball just exposed like that, and it results in a turnover, which that just can't happen, quite frankly. That should have been a first down, and it ends up being a fumble recovered by the defense. That's a huge swing right there. It kind of reminds you a little bit of another example was in the Tampa Bay game when he kind of waited too long to make a throw. You got to just get those in quicker, and that can result in not just not being able to pick up yards that are there, but also in turnovers like we saw here, where if you're going to not throw it, keep two hands on the football. That's the other aspect of it. We can also look at something like this from the very same game. It's a zone coverage play. You see the route he wants to throw to should be underneath the coverage. It's not a great route to throw to in general because it is a 3rd down and 8. But, you can pick up a few yards perhaps and at least get in field goal range. There's a lot of time left. There's 12 minutes left in the second quarter. So I understand the logic behind it. But watch what happens. So Jones takes the snap, and, this is not a throw he should be making. For one thing, the player who he wants to throw to is falling down. For another thing, even if he wasn't, the defensive player is making a really good read on this. He's breaking in well. So this is just a throw that Daniel Jones has no reason to make. Now, there is another player open on the other side of the field. Ideally, you would have liked Jones to maybe throw it there, especially since that's where he started looking. But for whatever reason, he didn't. And I don't get too nitpicky on that stuff, I feel like, because, sometimes you want to look somewhere else and you pick a matchup and it happens to be wrong. Even if you made the right read, sometimes the matchup you make pre-snap is going to be wrong and you just don't have time to get over there, all of that stuff. But I do know this, Jones should not be making this throw right here. However, he does, and it really is. It's just a bad decision. No getting around it. So yeah, to kind of reiterate what I've already said now at this point, I do not believe that there is a 0% chance that Daniel Jones can be effective. I think that there's a very good chance Daniel Jones can be effective. There's reason to not give up hope in Daniel Jones, I guess is what I would say. There's also reason to give up hope. And the biggest reason is those turnovers, which just need to be cut out. Do I think Jones can cut him out? I do. I think it's possible. Would I bet on it? Probably not. That's kind of the way I'm sitting here. But that's how I view of him as a player, and that's kind of what makes this so difficult is, like, listen, who would have foreseen the jump that Josh Allen had from year 2 to year 3? But at the same time, you can't bank on that happening for every single quarterback. So it's interesting. But yeah, that's what I think about Jones. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.